I'm Dr. Vanita Rattan. I'm a doctor, but I'm also a cosmetic formulator specifically for skin of color. So today's video is assessing professional grade treatments, specifically dermabrasion versus microdermabrasion. Which ones are suitable for skin of color, or are they suitable for skin of color? Or should we be modifying these procedures for skin of color? The reason I want to make this video is that for skin of color, we have large melanocytes that are easily triggered. As I always say, one scratch, one bite, or one burn, and we hyperpigment. This doesn't happen to Caucasian skin. And this is why the vast majority of skincare and procedures were really geared towards Caucasian skin, and not much thought was given to skin of color, because for us a lot of these procedures would lead to more pigmentation and scarring. And this is really the reason I made this channel for you. This channel is dedicated to skin of color, and as you know, none of my videos have ever been sponsored and they will never be sponsored. It purely is a reference library for you and for our children to see what is suitable for us and what we should maybe sidestep. If that sounds good to you, give me a thumbs up. Let's dive right in. So let's start off with dermabrasion. Dermabrasion is very rough. It's almost like sandpapering the skin. And it's done by a doctor in a controlled environment using anesthesia. You tend to feel, I'll go through later actually about what happens after the treatment. But the one thing I would say is, with us, we need to prevent or minimize any inflammation to the skin. And so with dermabrasion, I would be extremely cautious, and I would actually say for our skin of color family to avoid it completely, because it's not controlled inflammation. It is essentially ripping off the top layer of skin down to the basal layer. And this inflammation basically triggers melanocytes and can lead to hyperpigmentation, widespread hyperpigmentation, and scarring. This is something that's unlikely to happen to Caucasian skin. You can take the top layer of skin off for Caucasian skin using Fraxel laser, skin resurfacing, and their skin will grow back beautifully, because they have tiny little melanocytes that no matter what you do, you cannot trigger them. Whereas with us, our melanocytes are very sensitive and we have to treat them with love. And so dermabrasion is something that I would really say please steer clear of. You might ask, but Dr. V, what is dermabrasion actually used for? It's used for scarring. So it tends to be for acne scarring or scarring after trauma. What I would say is, I've made a whole video for you on scarring, post-acne scarring, but microneedling is better for you because it's controlled inflammation. This just wouldn't be on my top 10 list of how to treat acne scarring for skin of color. Now moving on to microdermabrasion. Microdermabrasion is when tiny crystals are sprayed onto the skin that are essentially scrubbing the top layer of skin. It's used for dull skin and for pigmentation. For 24 hours afterwards, your skin is likely to feel inflamed or a little bit irritated, and you wouldn't wear makeup for 24 hours. The good news is there is really no downtime with microdermabrasion, and it's nowhere near as painful as dermabrasion, which is why often you're not given any anesthesia at all. Now, during treatment for dermabrasion, a device is applied to the skin, and it's almost like a rough brush that almost rips the top layer of skin off. And it can feel for the next 10 days as if your skin has been burnt. It's likely to feel sore and quite painful. And even for Caucasian skin, it can take about 8 to 10 weeks for the pinkness of the skin to fade. So you wouldn't wear makeup for that entire 2-month period. And for both, Caucasians and skin of color, we are both subject to infection and scarring. So I mean, it's just something that is so low down on the list of treatments I would ever recommend for skin of color. Now, for microdermabrasion, for 24 hours, your skin is likely to feel dry and tight and a little bit uncomfortable. So what I would say is you want to create a healing environment. You want to be moisturizing multiple times that day with your SPF 50. I would stay out of the sun completely, because your skin right now is not protected, because you've literally taken the top layer of skin away. And you need to protect your melanocytes from UV damage. I would also say make sure your eyes are well protected during the procedure, because it can be quite irritating having these microcrystals being sprayed onto the skin if your eyes aren't protected. It's really going to irritate. Now, after your dermabrasion procedure, there are a few things you need to be careful of. One, you want to avoid UV really for 6 months. You want to avoid ibuprofen or aspirin for a few weeks. You want to avoid alcohol for at least a week, because it is a serious procedure. This is not a cosmetic facial that you're doing. The other thing I think is really important is these are both forms of physical exfoliation. And for skin of color, I don't love physical exfoliation. I'll tell you why. Even microdermabrasion, which is obviously far more gentle than dermabrasion, if the purpose is to reduce pigmentation, then all you've done is taken the top layer of skin away. So temporarily your skin is going to look brighter, but your skin is a living organ. Your melanocytes, those cells that are producing the pigment melanin, are alive, and they're going to keep producing pigment. That pigment is going to get into the skin cells around it and come to the surface, because your skin is a living organ. So all you've done is temporarily taken away some pigmentation, and you haven't given yourself a chance to have long-term benefits of reducing pigmentation. How do you do this? You do this by using ingredients called tyrosinase inhibitors. You basically want to get to the root of the problem, which is your hyperactive melanocyte. You want to slow down the rate of melanin production, and so less melanin is seeping into the keratinocytes, the skin cells around it, which then come to the surface like a conveyor belt, and you see clearer skin. This is far better, it's more effective, you get long-term results and less irritation, and that really is key with skin of color. I want you to do everything you can to get the best possible result, but without irritating the skin. There are many different products that contain tyrosinase inhibitors. I've done one on The Ordinary, how to layer The Ordinary for pigmentation. I've done one on how to layer Be Minimalist for those in India. I've done one on how to layer Paula's Choice for pigmentation. So I've made you lots of different videos on how to layer different tyrosinase inhibitors for pigmentation. I would say start with those, because I always say start cheap. If after 3 months you're not seeing any reduction with your pigmentation, then you can upgrade to the Dr. V Facial Pigmentation Kit, which contains 8 to 10 tyrosinase inhibitors, specifically designed for skin of color. With skin of color, we tend to have darker pigmentation, darker hyperpigmentation, but we also need to make sure we're not irritating the skin cells around it. It is an expensive kit, and I wouldn't start with this kit. Start with much cheaper products, see how you get on. Hopefully you don't need the kit, but at least it's there as an option, and you can get it from skincarebydrv.com. Don't forget, I am in the comment section for 1 hour at the launch of every single video, so hit that notification bell to make sure I get to answer your questions. Please do let me know which other videos you want me to make. I feel like we're getting through our videos really quickly. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I've changed my name to Dr. Vanita Rattan, and also Skincare by Dr. V, and TikTok is Dr. Vanita Rattan. You can also join us on our private Facebook group called Dr. V Inky Hackers. Now, an inky hacker is basically somebody who can read the back of the ingredients list. So the inky hacker knows that your ingredients are in descending order. That means that the ingredients right at the top have the highest percentage. They're able to read at least 50% of the ingredients of any of their skincare. They have the best skin of their lives. They don't waste money on marketing. and they tend to teach their loved ones around them about skincare too. So I feel like a Dr. V Inky hacker is a type of person. And if you are that person, then please do join us on our private Facebook group. There are some questions you have to answer to be admitted into the group to make sure you're a Dr. V Inky hacker. But actually it's such a wonderful group, honestly. I just think everybody helps everybody. You know, everybody is there to make sure that the rest of us aren't wasting our money and are doing, you know, layering things correctly, and, you know, new treatments that come up, new products that come up. I love that everybody just, you know, gets into the mix and helps each other. It's a very safe, loving space to be, which is rare, honestly, on the internet. So I'm very, very grateful for everyone in that group. So please do come and join. If that sounds good to you, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye.